as a result, if I describe this system, you won't be surprised to hear the result is we have at the top, we've got some pretty good schools, a wide swath of mediocrity in the middle, and a bottom, call it 25%, of pretty horrible, horrible failure. What do we do to fix this? Well, generally speaking, it's a tautology to say if you want to fix this, well, you can try and fix the existing system, or you can try and create alternatives. You can try and replace it. So on the alternative side would be charter schools, which are public schools, of course, but are set up and sort of run independently of the system. You certainly have voucher programs would be alternatives as well. And then there are a whole lot of things that relate to trying to fix and improve the system. And it's very important to understand that, I've just listed a few here, but there are, people search for magic bullets. They search for the 100% solution. And the answer is there are 101% solutions. And I happen to think charter schools are one important piece of that. I'm on the National Charter School Board as well as the KIPP Board. And so I'm a big believer in charter schools, but I'm not here telling you charter schools are the answer. The reality is we need to adopt both strategies. I think charter schools, high-performing charter schools, and by the way, there are a whole lot of low-performing ones that need to be shut down. I'm very frank about that. But they're laboratories in innovation, and certainly in certain cities have really provided a very large percentage of students with lifelines and getting them out of failing schools into high-performing schools. And where that's occurring, that's miraculous for those children. The problem, though, is that there's simply, you can't build enough new schools. The vast majority of students will continue to be educated in regular public schools, and we better focus very intently on how do you fix those too. The reality is I think it's great to give parents choices, but what do most parents want in the world? They just want a good local public school to send their kids to, and that's what we're not providing, certainly for low-income and minority students. And let me just summarize, by the way, the summary of the data and on the achievement gap and the quality, school quality is the color of your skin and your zip code are entirely determinative of the quality of public school you get in this country. Entirely determinative. Very few exceptions to that. And that is just an outrage. That is so wrong. That is so un-American, in my opinion. What is a successful system? What might it look like? Well, we don't have to look very far. We don't have to imagine it. It exists. It exists right here. We have, the smartest, most ambitious young people around the world, where do they want to go to college? Where do they want to go to graduate school? Right here in the United States. It has its issues, but our secondary system after 12th grade, colleges, universities, graduate schools is the best in the world. And then we've got, in the same country, we've got one of the worst in the developed world, K through 12 systems. Well, how is it possible? In the United States, we have two of the most successful and one of the worst systems, the same people, same country. And the answer is, well, when you look at the nature of these two systems, well, then it starts to become clear. In our successful system, no one kind of school has dominant market share. You got public schools, private schools, religiously oriented schools, all competing with one another. Students and their parents have lots of choices. And the money, critically, the money follows the decisions that the students and their parents are making. And because of that, if a school is failing and isn't meeting the needs of its customers, its students and all, they lose students, money goes away, people start losing jobs. There are real consequences to failure. In our public school system, it seems like the worse you do, the more Title I money gets shoveled in your direction. In other words, they're almost rewarded for failure. Until recently, in a few cities, that's changing. At the university level, for someone to get a lifetime tenure, that is a rigorous process, and you got to demonstrate that you deserve it. In most of our public schools, if you merely stick around and you have a pulse after 2 years, you got tenure. And at that point, it's virtually impossible to remove someone. So very little innovation and specialization in our public schools, in our graduate schools, tremendous innovation and specialization. So how do you fix broken systems? And I'm a business person. I look at broken businesses, but it's the same game plan. If you're talking about governmental systems, hire and train great leaders and empower them, then have the right strategy and tactics, then you measure your results, and then you got to hold people accountable. And yes, you got to spend more money, but spending more money, pouring more money into a broken system without reform doesn't move the needle at all. This has been tried. So KIPP finds great leaders, trains them, then gives them the power particularly over their budget and their staff at their school, and then holds them accountable. I just came from KIPP Indianapolis yesterday, and it was one of our lower performing schools. And last year, we came in, every adult in the school had to reapply for their job. The school leader, the assistant leader, and all but 4 teachers didn't get rehired. All new people coming in this year, and it makes all the difference in the world. But this is basic stuff, right? If any organization is sort of failing, you replace the people and you bring in people who can try and turn things around, right? I don't know which is more shocking, the fact that I observed this actually happening. I've never seen it before happen at a public school, and this is a public school, it's a public charter school, or the fact that this isn't the norm, right? I mean, this should happen at every failing school. Right? And it's not, it never happens in this system. So, number 2, so we get great school leaders, we empower them, hold them accountable. Their job then, secondly, if you're running school, is everything is dominated by what's happening in the classroom. High caliber teachers. So the primary job of our school leaders is recruit, attract, retain, train great teachers. Thirdly, we then give our students a lot more time with those teachers. You cannot catch up a 2-year deficit in 5th grade without a heck of a lot more time on task. So we extend the school day and school year, 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. every other Saturday, 3 weeks in the summer. Our kids are getting 60% more class time than the average public school student. And then finally, very strong focus on sort of character and culture and teaching kids grit and determination. There have been studies that took 2 groups of kids, not 2 groups of kids, but measured kids on 2 things, IQ and grit and determination. And then it measured how they did over the next 5 or 10 years. Turns out grit and determination were twice as important as IQ in determining life outcomes. Okay, and so the KIPP in every highly successful school I've seen focuses enormously on setting high expectations. We're climbing the mountain to college and helping kids develop strategies for dealing with setbacks, because everything outside of school they're dealing with setbacks and chaos in their life in many cases. So the character and culture piece is absolutely fundamental, as important as academics, I'd argue. So now let's talk about what are we going to do about this. Why? I mean, you look at this, and you're like, why hasn't more been done? This has been going on for decades. Decades of failure with more and more money. Why hasn't more been done to address this? And, look, reasonable people will disagree about particular strategies and tactics, but the evidence is just becoming increasingly overwhelming, the things you need to do. But they're not being done, with very rare exceptions. Washington, D.C., thanks to Michelle's courageous leadership, a good part of it is being done, but that is sadly the very rare exception in this country. So the real reason that things aren't being changed is because the system, it's screwing millions of children. I read somewhere that 4 million children today, 4 million children went to a school that has been declared failing for 6 consecutive years. 4 million, virtually all of them low-income minority children. 4 million. Okay? So while the system isn't working for them, it's working great for the adults in the system. And this isn't I'm not simply talking about the teachers' unions, I'm talking about everybody in the system. And what have been the trends over the past 40 years for the adults? More pay, more gold-plated benefits, shorter work hours, and greater job security. Boy, that's a system I'd fight for, right? So the adults, it's a system, it's a huge system, millions of jobs, and pretty good jobs, particularly in this economy, right? That's something people will fight to defend. They will fight to the death, practically, to defend that. So they are extremely, the adults in the system, and this, by the way, includes all the politicians who feed off this system, of course. It's an enormous source of patronage. School systems are the largest employers in most big cities. Okay, so it's working great for everybody except the kids. They are very well organized. The people who want to maintain this system, extremely politically powerful, fight fiercely to defend it. So that's what you got on one side. And on the other side, you got the poorest, least well-educated, most marginalized, politically powerless people in our society. So who's going to win that fight? It's not hard to see why this system hasn't changed in 40 years.